Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the Leo Zagami show? Are you ready? Christy, are you ready?
Ready.
We are all ready. So let's go. Inside the news. And today we're gonna be also listening to probably a very boring speech, but a very important one. Yes. This is the Leo Zagami show where we analyze geopolitical matters, bring you the latest news from the new world disorder and beyond, and of course a touch of Vatican inside.
Is this our first time on a Tuesday?
Is it? I don't know. Is it? Think about it.
I think so.
Is it?
Maybe.
Maybe. And here we are, Leo Zagami and Crazy Zagami, the Leo Zagami show. Welcome, everybody. We have a lot of news, of course, but we also have the subject of the day, which is, of course, George Soros, a member of the same Davos agenda that is also, unfortunately, ruining Canada, because who is ruining Canada? A young disciple of Klaus Schwab. And, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? The book is out. But only the Kindle for the moment. We had some slight technical problems bringing you out at the same time. The paperback and the hardcover will take a few more extra days.
No.
The hardcover.
Okay, because the paperback should be.
No, the paperback will be available tomorrow or maximum the day after. And I want to show you, of course, the cover of this glorious new book that for the first time discusses the occult roots of the Great Reset as well as the populist roots of the Great Reject. You see, Christy, this is basically the back cover, no?
Yeah.
There is me watching something. What am I watching? Ooh.
Who's that? COVID?
Don't say it. Then, of course, we have a lot of inside information delivered on the cover.
That guy.
That's Harriman. And then behind you have the dragon. And, of course, also this is Harriman.
What's that mean, Harriman?
It's not Harriman. It's not a Harriman. It's Harriman. It's basically the concept of Satan in the Zoroastrian tradition is Harriman, and also the way Rudolf Steiner depicted Harriman and the Antichrist that will arrive in the last period of the past century. Basically, we already have an Antichrist. We don't know yet for sure who he is. We have some suspicions. Welcome, everybody. I see a lot of people here already tuning in from LA, from the Midwest, from, what is that, Pennsylvania, PA? What is that, PA? Pennsylvania. And then we have, of course, a lot of friends, or even from Italy. Long life to His Majesty King Leo. Well, of course, that's great. The Italians like to see me as their future king. Unfortunately, at the moment, Italy is a demented Jesuit stronghold. And the only king at the moment in Italy is Pope Francis. Imagine that. Okay, so Canada is tuning in, and we have a lot of news from Canada also. Before going into the topic of today, which is the speech that was delivered last week by George Soros, let me deliver you a few, just a couple of minutes of this excellent message of support, endorsement by Archbishop Vigano, who is, by the way, Christy, one of the protagonists also of Volume 7 of my Confessions, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dear brothers and sisters, Canadian truck drivers, the global coup that in these 2 years of psycho-pandemic farce has been carried out by the globalist elite appears more clearly if you do not limit ourselves to considering what happened in individual nations, but broaden our gaze to what has happened everywhere. Your protest, dear Canadian truck driver friends, joins a worldwide chorus that wants to oppose the establishment of the New World Order on the trouble of nation-states through the Great Reset, designed by the World Economic Forum.
That's it, the Great Reset, designed by the World Economic Forum, the subject of the latest book. And the incredible thing, guys, about my latest book that you can already find, by the way, on
Kindle.
On Kindle. You can, of course, get the link by going on www.leozagami.com. I will also put the link in the description of. I should have put it in the description of this video, but I can maybe add it here.
And on the description on Amazon, there's like a sample, and so you can read, like the introduction and a little bit of the first, I think up until the second subchapter, maybe. First,
yeah?
Yeah, maybe the first only, but you can see, like, get a feeling about it.
That's interesting. I'm trying to see if I can find it here, though. It's just out, so I don't. I want to see if, yeah, that's it. Here we have it. You can basically find it already on Amazon. Let me show you. The book will be out soon, also on paperback and on hardcover for the first time. One of my British books, English speaking books. Why is it British? Why is it actually English American? I don't really. Actually, Christy has to correct me because sometimes I'm too British. But that's my background. I'm half British. Okay, so guys, this book, Confessions of an Illuminati, Volume 7, is finally available on Kindle. On Kindle. I will also put here the link for those who are interested. I'm going to put it here on the chat, so you can all check it out. Either you are on Facebook, either you are watching us on our Top Secret The Leo Zagami Show YouTube channel. Remember also to subscribe to our emergency channels, because Top Secret The Leo Zagami Show is at its last strike. Okay? The price is very modest for a book that actually brings you for the first time information that you will not be able to find anywhere else. Let me introduce this book thanks to the excellent reading of my wife. I know she will probably hate me for that.
What, I have to read it?
Okay, Christy, you are ready? Here we go. Christy is gonna introduce you.
Really big.
Okay.
The author's masterpiece of the Confession series. This is the first book ever written about the occult roots of the Great Reset. And the mainstream media wants us to believe is that the mainstream media wants us. You made it small. I can't see it.
Okay, let me put it again. Okay.
Wait, that the mainstream media wants us to believe is simply an innocent global COVID recovery plan set up by a group of wealthy individuals, while the author proves it to be something different with the help of well-researched historic evidence and inside documentation from the lodges of German, Swiss, and Australian.
Austrian.
It's
a big difference.
Sorry, I can't see.
Especially because Austrian was the birthplace of Adolf Hitler. Though I guess the next Adolf Hitler could be born in Australia, because Australia is just as bad as Austria these days.
Austrian. Freemasonry.
Actually, you should pronounce it in a way Schwarzenegger. Austrians Freemasonry, yeah.
I can't do that.
Okay.
And the infamous
but your
Bavarian.
Your great. Actually, your grandfather.
Yeah.
Was he German?
Yeah.
You have a lot of German in you, so take it out. Okay. Bavarian Illuminati.
A dark and sinister conspiracy connected to the rise of the Fourth Reich.
The Germans pronounce it Reich.
Okay.
I know it sounds a little
camouflaged
bit nasty,
as the Fourth Industrial Revolution that connects communism and the Jesuits to two German professors, Adam Weishaupt founder of the original Illuminati, and Professor Klaus Schwab, who started the Davos Agenda, founding the World Economic Forum. This book is not only a detailed essay to expose their plan to place the world in the hands of the cyber Satan by 2030.
Of cyber Satan.
What did I say?
Of the cyber Satan.
Of the cyber Satan.
You corrected this, actually. You should know it better than me. Oh.
I talk like you. Of the cyber Satan.
Okay.
By 2030, but also a practical manual to survive the unfolding apocalypse with the groundbreaking idea.
What groundfounding?
I can't see, man. Even my glasses.
Is that the reason? Is that the reason?
I don't want to do that anymore.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting live worldwide, 12 minutes past the hour, wherever you are. My wife, beautiful wife, Christy, and me. Also beautiful, but okay. And basically, we were listening what Archbishop Vigano was saying, and he actually really what does he say? Something that fits in perfectly with this new book, because it's all coming out of there these days.
Where does he live?
And by the United Nations under the name of Agenda 2030.
So you see, this is very clear. He has very clear idea what is going on. 2030, the agenda, the UN agenda, but also what he's saying is the Great Reset. Listen.
Of the new world order on the trouble of nation states through the Great Reset designed by the World Economic Forum and by the United Nations under the name of Agenda 2030. And we know that many heads of government have participated in the Klaus Schwab's School for Young Leaders, the so-called Global Leaders for Tomorrow, beginning with Justin Trudeau, and a man.
Wow, man, this guy basically is like he has already read my book. He knows everything, but he used to be the former diplomatic representative in the United States of the Vatican, the Nuncio Apostolico, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano. Great stuff, guys, great stuff.
Macron, Jacinta Ardern, and Boris Johnson, and before that, Angela Merkel, Nicolas Sarkozy, and Tony Blair. It would seem that Canada is, along with Australia, Italy, Austria, and France, one of the nations most infiltrated by the globalists. And in this infernal project, we must not only consider the psycho-pandemic farce, but also the attack on tradition and Christian identity, indeed, more precisely, the Catholic identity of these countries.
Okay, guys, before going back maybe later to what our friend Archbishop Vigano has said, which includes what somebody in the chat is obviously pointing out, the planning and eliminating of Christianity, which, by the way, was already included in the original plan of Adam Weishaupt, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Klaus Schwab is picking up from what was laid there by other people. For the first time with my new book that is coming out as we speak.
It is out already.
I know it's out already on Kindle. I said it's coming out as we speak. Here it is. You can find it already on Amazon. On Amazon, of course, you can find at the moment only the Kindle. In the coming days, you will be able to find also the paperback and hardcover of
Probably
this book.
when people see this tomorrow, this video, then it'll already be out. So
this book will be historic, because I think that Klaus Schwab is not going to like me too much after this book is published. Because this is I think this, Christy, can be the biggest expose of what really created the Great Reset. No?
Yeah.
This from the occult roots of the Great Reset to the populist roots of the Great Reject, we are really unfolding a lot of symbolism already on the cover. You see here, there is
What is that? I didn't know that.
If you go all the way in, you can find details. You see, then you have, of course, the symbol used by the World Economic Forum. Behind, you have a dragon. Then you have Ahriman, and Ahriman is also a very important demonic figure that you find central in the book. I talk about it, and I talk about Cyber Satan and Ahriman. Let me show you, though, now the main subject of today. Let me also say hello to Telesmunto, Cristina Mele, Subkev, Andrea Signini, everybody who has joined us. I don't know if and also, of course, this Shabbatian Frankist Jacobin. We discuss, in fact, in volume 7, also Shabbatian Frankist. We discuss Shabbatian Frankist in connection with the Jesuits, in connection with the Illuminati order. And yes, Rudolf Steiner was always going on about this Ahriman, which, of course, you will learn more about in volume 7 of my Confessions. Let's go now to one of the protagonists also of volume 7, aside from Klaus Schwab, which is, of course, his pal,
George Soros.
George Soros. This is a speech he delivered last week at the Hoover Institution. Open your ears, guys. It's 20 minutes, 22, but we're going to
listen to all of that.
All of it, but we're going to interrupt and analyze it. Now we're going to have to analyze every 5 minutes. We will analyze it together. This is very important because this concerns the future of mankind.
Hello, everyone. 2022 will be a critical year in the history of the world. In a few days, China, the most powerful authoritarian state, will be hosting the Winter Olympics. And like Germany in 1936, it will attempt to use the spectacle to score a propaganda victory for its system of strict controls. We are at or close to important decisions that will determine the direction in which the world is going. The German elections have already occurred. The French election will take place in April 2022, and in the same month, Hungary's voters, against all odds, may turn an authoritarian ruler out of power. Together with Putin's decision whether to invade Ukraine, these developments will determine the fate of Europe. In October, China's 20th Party Congress will decide whether to give Xi Jinping a third term in office as Party General Secretary. Then the US will hold a crucial midterm election in November. Climate change will remain a paramount policy challenge for the world, but the dominant geopolitical feature of today's world is the escalating conflict between two systems of governance that are diametrically opposed to each other. Let me therefore define the difference as simply as I can. In an open society, the role of the state is to protect the freedom of the individual. In a closed society, the rule of the individual is to serve the interests of the one-party state.
Okay, so now here we have Klaus Schwab's mate, pal, George Soros, one of the central figures of the World Economic Forum. He's very old.
How old is he?
Very old. I mean, I don't know, but he's ancient. I mean, his skin is kind of falling off his face. Now, the sinister speech he's giving points on what is going on right now. So it's relevant when you think that maybe in the coming months, we will see the disposal of millions of people, hunger, death, on an unprecedented scale seen since the Second World War. Now, we like to comment on things in a light way.
You can't comment light on this.
But you can't comment light on this. In fact, Christy is absolutely right. We need to be a little bit more serious when we comment on this kind of stuff, because this guy here has more wealth than an entire nation, or several nations put together. And he really is kind of digging into his own vision of things. And so we're trying to understand here, trying to understand what they want to do and how they want to do it. Because remember that this guy here has just invested 125 million on the Democratic Party to make them win the midterm elections. Mm-hmm. In 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, he invested something like 18 billion to buy every single journalist on the planet. Most politicians, he owns them. He owns people like Barack Obama. He literally owns them. You know, the fancy house on the Hawaiian Riviera of Barack Hussein Obama, he bought it. This guy, because that's how it works. So these are definitely, like somebody is saying here in the chat, dark times. I want to continue listening to Soros, but I would like after to listen to your point of view on this speech, Christy. So the face. Okay.
The founder of the Open Society Foundations, obviously I am on the side of open societies, but the important question today is which system of governance is going to prevail. Each has strengths and weaknesses. Open societies unleashed the creative and innovative energies of people. Closed societies concentrate power.
Now, the thing is that Soros almost sees himself as a hero for an open society. He's the one, by the way, who finances all those boats that invade, especially Italy, but you know, they arrive from Northern Africa full of immigrants. They're paid by this gentleman here, who also intervenes in every way possible to sabotage capitalism. So I don't understand what is his idea of freedom. His idea of freedom is, of course, the same idea as Klaus Schwab, the Fourth Reich. We will all own nothing because they have to own everything. And we will be just left in a miserable life in our homes, inside a virtual reality, which supposedly will become the only option for most people who will even be scared to go outside, either because there will be another virus, either because there will be some kind of nuclear fallout, either because there will be criminals running rampant in the streets, killing everybody. This is the society that has been opened up by Soros. It seems a nightmare. It's not really a nice society, eh?
In the hands of the one-party state. Those are the strengths. The weaknesses are more specific to local and regional conditions. For instance, the relationship between the European Union and its member states is still evolving. The EU ought to protect Lithuania, which recognized Taiwan from an unofficial blockade by China. But will it? The victory of open societies can't be taken for granted in a world teetering at the edge of military aggression, both in Ukraine and in Taiwan. President Biden has generally adopted the right policies. He told Putin that Russia will pay a heavy price if he attacks Ukraine, but the US will not go to war to defend Ukraine. If Putin attacks, the heaviest penalty will be greater transatlantic cooperation. Biden won't make any unilateral concessions, but he's interested in finding a peaceful solution.
Now, how is the diplomatic side of things going with Vladimir Putin and this peaceful solution? We know that Macron, who is basically, like Archbishop Vigano pointed out, another member of the World Economic Forum, went yesterday to Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin was not really impressed. Guys, don't believe in what most mainstream media is. The mainstream media at the moment is kind of trying to make people relax about it. Because what I'm about to unfold here is Vladimir Putin literally threatening nuclear warfare. And if that happens, then we're talking about a tragedy that will see Europe becoming hell on earth once again after the First and the Second World War. How many lives were lost during those wars? How much those wars influenced on the life of every single human being. Let's go to the Kremlin. Let's go to Russia. Let's see what's really happening with this meeting that went on yesterday, and what Vladimir Putin said to Emmanuel Macron.
Я хочу еще раз все-таки подчеркнуть это. Я говорил, но мне очень бы хотелось, чтобы вы меня услышали все-таки в конце концов и донесли это до своих читателей, зрителей и пользователей в интернете.
Now, for those who don't know Russian, it's going to be a little bit difficult to understand all this, because we don't have subtitles on this video, unfortunately. But the truth is that the meeting didn't go very well. In fact, Russia Insight has titled this video with a very dramatic way. Basically, Putin. Okay, so let me show you here why it's all very dramatic and why we should listen to the subtitle version to understand more. Also with the title here. The title is very clear. Putin to Macron, you have been tormenting me for 6 hours. There will be no winners if World War III breaks out. Okay? So, open up your eyes and, of course, focus on what Vladimir Putin says.
Я говорил, но мне очень бы хотелось, чтобы вы меня услышали все-таки в конце концов и донесли это до своих читателей, зрителей и пользователей в интернете. Но вы понимаете или нет, что если Украина будет в НАТО и военным путем будет возвращать себе Крым, европейские страны автоматически будут втянуты в военный конфликт с Россией. Конечно, значит, потенциал Объединенной Организации НАТО и России несопоставим. Мы понимаем. Но мы также и понимаем, что Россия одна из ведущих ядерных держав, а по некоторым компонентам
Nuclear power.
многих опережает. Победителей не будет.
Nuclear. There will be
И
no
вы
winners.
окажетесь втянутыми в этот конфликт помимо своей воли. Вы даже не успеете глазом моргнуть, когда будете исполнять пункт 5 Римского договора. Господин президент, конечно, не хочет этого развития, и я не хочу. И я не хочу. Поэтому он здесь и находится, и мучает меня уже 6 часов подряд вопросами, гарантиями, вариантами решения.
He says that basically to Macron that he's been tormenting him for 6 hours.
Благодарен ему за то, что он предпринимает такие усилия. Со своей стороны будем делать все для того, чтобы найти вот эти компромиссы, которые всех устраивают. И в наших предложениях, которые мы направили в НАТО и в Вашингтон, нет ни одного пункта, который мы считаем неисполнимым. Ни одного.
Okay, so what do you think, Christy? Was this worth pointing out instead than all the lies that the most mainstream media is trying to deliver in the last few hours, saying that Macron, then of course we will talk also about Canada, but before going to Canada, Christy, what do you think? I mean, it's quite serious here. We have Vladimir Putin saying there will be no winners. We are a nuclear power. We will unleash nuclear. It's not like we will send you a couple of sun nigger terrorists. We will unleash nuclear force. What do you think, Christy?
What do I think? I think it's horrible. I think it's horrible. I think that what do you think? I think it's horrible, and I just personally don't think that we should mess with Russia.
Let's go back to Mr. Soros.
Choice is up to Putin. At the same time, Biden has made it clear to Xi Jinping that if he uses force against Taiwan.
Now, you see, the two things seems to be intertwined. And this is also something that, of course, I have already laid out in Volume 7. But Volume 7 is a manual to survive what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And it clearly tells you how you should take some practical actions in the next few years to survive all this. We are talking about practical things, no? Basically, that I advise. Abandon immediately the cities. If you're living in a big city, you are basically asking for trouble. You are basically gonna probably fall into despair, because at the first sign of either of a nuclear fallout, I hope that never happens, or either an imminent, civil war or whatever, everything is lined up in my book. I lined up all the various options and how you need to behave and what actions you need to take now, not in 10 years, not in 5 years, now. So, Volume 7 is basically the new book by Leo Zagami, published by Cursum Perficio. Here we have the editor also of the book, the co-published with me, no? Mm-hmm. This fantastic book. Reading my book, Christy, you actually had to not only read it, but you had to edit it. And so you are really the first person who knows this book inside and out, mm-hmm. aside from myself. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I think that it's amazing. It's excellent. Everything that you wrote in it, it's like coincides with everything that we're experiencing right now. And if people have questions about, why things are happening the way they're happening, maybe not everyone knows everything. So you answer all the questions that people might have about certain topics that have to do with this, which is like, it's like our future. It's like everything that we're going to experience.
You told me the first day you started working on this book that you couldn't sleep.
Yeah. I couldn't.
This book gave you nightmares.
Yeah. Did.
Did at one point did the book change and reassured you in some way, or was it only scary?
It reassured me. I mean, it's not like, I don't know, you're explaining it in a way that, I mean, it's not like a scary book. It's like an eye-opening book, and I wasn't like I was awake, but I was thinking about things. I wasn't like volume 6 gave me nightmares, but
Yeah,
that book gave me nightmares. No, but it wasn't like that. It was like, it just makes you, I mean, you can't ignore what's happening right
the book,
now,
for those who are asking, we have already provided the link on the chat. It's already available on Amazon, on Kindle. In the next 24 hours will be available also on paperback, and in the next 48 hours it will be also available on hardcover. For the first time, there will be also the hardcover option. In this book, you will realize that the plan of Klaus Schwab, George Soros, goes really back hundreds of years and historically connected to certain lodges in Germany, in Austria, in Switzerland, and even in Italy. The connections with the Club of Rome, with the Vatican, the Jesuits, the Order of the Golden Fleece, the Austro-Hungaric Empire. All these things, of course, will be also discussed by me in a couple of days, because I will be presenting this book on Owen Schroyer's show. I will be basically on InfoWars on Thursday at 4 p.m. CST to present my book for those who are interested.
I want to say that, you know, like, people who have read your books, they know like a lot of stuff already about everything, but it's like this book is just like, you bring it, I don't know, it's like the masterpiece of it all, you know. It's like you start hearing all these things and you remember the books that you read, these different things, and you learned about all these things.
Yeah, in fact, you have citations that bring you to volume 4, citations that bring you to volume 6.66, citations that bring you to volume 5, and even citations that bring you to volume 3, to volume 2, to volume 1. This book is the completion, maybe, of my work in a way. No, it gives you the possibility, though, to read it without even having read the other ones, because in a way it is in itself an independent story from the rest of the, but if you have read the other ones, you are better off because you are more prepared.
Yeah, it's just a lot of knowledge that you already have.
So we have the possibility to start a new project with this book, because this book is not only the Great Reset. This book is something else also, Christina. It's the Great Reject. Now, let's discuss this element here, the Great Reject. The Great Reject is a project that we will be bringing around. I discussed this project the other day with Jordan Maxwell and a group of scholars who joined us in here in the area in Palm Springs, where we had an excellent meeting. And I think that we are basically laying down the foundation. Somebody said, better getting out of California. No, I'm in the desert. I'm just 1 hour from Trump land, or from the patriots of places where, trust me, Gavin Newsom is not welcome in the desert. We are not in LA here, or in San Francisco. So, or in the rich vineyards of the elite, or Santa Barbara, or that BS. This is not where we are. And we need to stay strong because, of course, when this whole, we will witness this collapse of the system, then there will be two ways of the society will be, I mean, we will be partaking two directions, no? And we are taking one direction and they will take another direction, the direction of slavery, of never-ending vaccine mandates, of never-ending draconian measures on their lives, of dependence from technology, more and more artificial intelligence telling them what to do, what not to do, when they go to the toilet, when not they go, when they cook, when they do this, when they do that. All this is not part of the Great Reject. And in the Great Reject, you have also the Great Readout. You have people who have already started this path, but we want to enrich it. So in the book, there is not only the essay on the roots of all this, but there is also a manual how to survive, and also the communities around America that have embraced already a different way of life, and where you could possibly go. Of course, somebody says not California is not the ideal place. We, in fact, discussed in the book also places like Oregon, Idaho, and many other places that, of course, have already started to create communities. But here in California, surprise, surprise, we are actually creating a project not too far from here. I can't tell you exactly in which area. Let me tell you, and there is already a survey ongoing on the water springs, on the way this whole place can be used as a refugee for like-minded people. Here in California, but there will be also other places around in Arizona and other places. So we are working actively behind the scenes, but now with the release of the book, we aim to wake up people and tell them, this is what's happening. This is the background of what's going on. This is the unfolding of the apocalypse. Make your choice now before it's too late. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that is a good way of describing this book. And everything that you have seen today, Vigano, Soros, Putin, everything is part of this book, and much more, because then you have the comparison with, and the roots of it all. When you start from Weishaupt, the Illuminati, the League of the Just, Karl Marx, you have then Mao Zedong, you have Henry Kissinger, you have Klaus Schwab, you have, of course, also Nazism, the Third Reich, and so many similarities between the rise of the Third Reich, the people involved in the rise of the Third Reich, people like Prescott Bush. Mm-hmm. People don't know this, but so all this. So breakaway civilization. Yeah, let's say that we need to separate at one point from these people, because they, unfortunately, will never give up on their dependency from cyber Satan, because they are already lost. They have already sold their soul. They are already soulless. And for that reason, we hope that we can provide an alternative. That's why we're working behind the scenes. And now, though, with this book, we also aim to go all over the United States to present this book, this project, finding like-minded people, getting actively organized. We are not here in Canada. We are not in Europe, where these people don't have any weapons. These people are slaves, basically. Unfortunately, they're slaves of people like George Soros in places like Canada. But let's listen to Soros again.
China will have to confront not only the US, but a larger alliance composed of the AUKUS, that's Australia, United Kingdom, and the US, and the Quad, which is US, Japan, Australia, and India, together with a number of other potential allies who have not yet committed themselves to joint action, such as South Korea and the Philippines. Japan is the country that has most fully committed to defend Taiwan. On the other hand, Xi Jinping has declared that he is determined to assert China's sovereignty over Taiwan by force if necessary. He is devoting...
So, we saw what happened the other day. Putin goes, like I already announced weeks ago, to meet Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping endorses Putin's possible invasion of Ukraine and tells NATO to back off. But we also have the possible invasion of Taiwan. I have a friend, Franco, you know him, that says, who is very dear friend, married with a Japanese lady, and he said, oh, I'm planning maybe to go to Japan. Italy is terrible these days. I said, listen, my friend, maybe you don't realize where you're going. You're going in a warfare, how you say, you're going in an area. War zone, yeah. You're going in a war zone, in a future war zone. It's absolutely ridiculous to go now and live in Japan under the threat of China. I mean, it's better to come maybe on this side of the world if you want to have a more tranquil life, or at least some chance of survival. Somebody says, Karl Marx, Moses, yeah, sure, but we talk about all these people in Volume 7. Maybe people don't know that, but on 11th of September 2001, where was Klaus Schwab?
I know.
Yes, where was he?
He was in New York.
He was in New York
with some Jewish people.
With the head, one of the heads of the Jewish Congress, having a picnic in the park while the World Trade Center was falling down. Maybe people don't know that at one point Henry Kissinger was excommunicated by traditional Jews that felt that he was a Sabbatean Frankist. Maybe people don't know that Sabbatean Frankists were able to convince and sponsor through the Rothschild the plan of the Illuminati became intertwined with the plan of the Sabbatean Frankists and with the plans of the Jesuits. So it's kind of all merging together. But historically, you need to get, of course, Volume 7 to understand how that happened. Let's continue to listen to George Soros.
To armaments. Recently, he surprised the world by demonstrating a hypersonic controllable missile. The US has nothing comparable and doesn't intend to compete. I think that's the right policy, because Xi Jinping's hypersonic achievement doesn't change the balance of mutually assured destruction that will stop the enemies from attacking each other. The missile is a mere propaganda victory. Still, war between the US and its enemies has become more plausible, and that is not a pleasant subject to contemplate. Recently, I asked myself the question, how did the current situation arise? When I embarked on what I call my political philanthropy in the 1980s, American superiority was not in question. That is no longer the case. Why? Part of the answer is to be found in technological process, most of which is based on artificial intelligence or AI, which was in its infancy in the 1980s. The development of AI and the rise of social media and tech platforms evolved together. This has produced very profitable companies.
Oh, the development of the AI, social media, all subjects that are very much analyzed in depth in volume 7 of my confessions. He also discussed, of course, the fact that it's very scary to think about a possible war, not only between America and Russia, but also between Russia and China. I mean, the idea was kind of making him a little bit worried, to say the least, especially after these hypersonic missiles that China has launched that will, of course, bypass every possibility that America has since the time of the famous Star Wars with Ronald Reagan to actually defend ourselves from a nuclear attack, because it's so instant that that's it. You are gone. We will find ourselves basically in a Mad Max kind of scenario. I would suggest everybody to go and check out maybe the Mad Max series with Mel Gibson, just to have an idea of how life might be in 20, 30, 40 years if a nuclear catastrophe unfortunately unfolds. Christy, I see a little bit uneasy with this subject.
I don't want to live like Mad Max.
I know, but I know it's pretty scary.
I'm gonna do very well.
You don't do very well. We will have to take care. I think you have to have maybe we can just go and
What about Kingdom of Heaven on Earth for 1,000 years? I prefer that.
Yes, of course. But
I think God's gonna intervene.
Hopefully. Definitely at the moment, Satan is in control and Soros is one of his little helpers.
That have become so powerful that nobody can compete with them, but they can compete with each other. These companies have come to dominate the global economy. They are multinational and their reach extends into every corner of the world. We can all name them: Facebook, Google, Apple, and Amazon. There are similar conglomerates in China, but their names are less well known in the West. This development had far-reaching consequences. It has sharpened the conflict between China and the United States and has given it an entirely new dimension. China has turned its tech platforms into national champions. The US is more hesitant to do so because it's worried about their effect on the freedom of the individual. These differences, different attitudes, shed new light on the conflict between the two systems of governance that the US and China represent. In theory, AI is morally and ethically neutral. It can be used for good or bad. But in practice, its effect is asymmetric. AI is particularly good at producing instruments of control that help repressive regimes and endanger open society.
So, AI is particularly good for systems of control. Basically, Cyber Satan is on the move. Let's not forget that in my latest book, I also comment on Henry Kissinger's latest book, which has been written with an ex-guy who used to be in Google and some other big tech guy. And basically, we are talking about the latest book of Henry Kissinger that is all about the AI wonders. And
he likes it a lot.
He likes it a lot, Henry Kissinger. Soros is more realistic, more crude in his description here instead.
Societies. Interestingly, the coronavirus reinforced the advantage repressive regimes enjoy by legitimizing the use of personal data
when he says oppressive regimes, does he intend also all his friends in the West that he has placed? Because, I mean, Justin Trudeau is an oppressive regime. Italy is an oppressive regime. Macron is an oppressive regime. Here it's not only about China sticking up
Sticking up what?
COVID test up your ass, but it's also about many other countries.
For public control purposes. With all these advantages, one might think that Xi Jinping, who controls personal data for the surveillance of his citizens more aggressively than any other ruler in history, is bound to be successful. He certainly thinks so, and many people believe him. I should like to explain why that is not the case. That will require a thumbnail history of the Chinese Communist Party.
So basically, he is kind of criticizing Xi Jinping. Is almost challenging Xi Jinping, saying that he doesn't think...
Aren't they like friends?
Well, I mean, Xi Jinping is also part of this game. We know very well that Klaus Schwab, like I explained in my book, his son is in Beijing, is married with a Chinese and everything. Let's say that Soros has always had in his sick head to intervene some way in the political transformation of China. I don't think that will ever happen. I don't think so.
Or CCP. The first person to dominate the CCP, Mao Zedong, unleashed the great leap forward that caused the death of tens of millions of people. This was followed by the Cultural Revolution that destroyed China's traditional culture by torturing and killing the cultural and economic elite. Out of this turmoil, a new leader emerged, Deng Xiaoping, who recognized that China was woefully lagging behind the capitalist world. His motto was, hide your strength and bide your time. He invited foreigners to invest in China. Then that led to a period of miraculous growth that continued even after Xi Jinping came to power in 2013. Since then, Xi Jinping has done his best to dismantle Deng Xiaoping's achievements. He brought private companies established under Deng under the control of the CCP and undermined the dynamism that used to characterize them. Rather than letting private enterprise blossom, Xi Jinping introduced his own China dream that can be summed up in two words: total control. That has had disastrous consequences. In contrast to Deng Xiaoping, Xi Jinping is a true believer in communism. Mao Zedong and Vladimir Lenin are his idols. At the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the CCP, he was dressed like Mao, while the rest of the audience was wearing business suits. According to the rules of succession established by Deng Xiaoping, Xi Jinping's term in power ought to expire in 2022. But Xi, inspired by Lenin, has gained firm control of the military and all other institutions of repression and surveillance. He has carefully choreographed the process that will elevate him to the level of Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping and make him ruler for life. To accomplish this, Xi Jinping had to reinterpret CCP's history to show that it will logically lead to appointing him for at least another term. Xi Jinping has many enemies, although nobody can oppose him in public because he controls all the levers of power. There is a fight brewing within the CCP that is so sharp that it has found expression in various party publications. Xi is under attack from those who are inspired by Deng Xiaoping's ideas and want to see a greater role for private enterprise. Xi Jinping himself believes that he's introducing a system of governance that is inherently superior to liberal democracy. But he rules by intimidation, and nobody dares to tell him what he doesn't want to hear. As a result, it's difficult to shake his beliefs, even as...
So here, basically, for those who want to understand a little bit more about all this in very simple terms, because, of course, Christy herself said, Leo, maybe people could get bored, or they could maybe fail to understand certain nuances that are really important about what he's saying. Here it seems like George Soros is almost saying that Xi Jinping has enemies, he's not inside the party, he's not really the leader he claims he is. He's kind of like insinuating that there is some opposition within China. Is he like trying to trigger something here? It's interesting to see, of course, within this new world order, which basically sees China very much aligned with everything that Soros does.
Yeah.
Suddenly he has this.
It doesn't make sense.
Is he kind of like maybe fictionally attacking Xi Jinping so that Xi Jinping in a way can say, I'm a true communist and I oppose Soros?
Is it all like a fake game?
I mean, it's like good theater, maybe. Very good theater. Very good theater. It seems like very good theater. In the meantime, of course, we have the Winter Olympics in China, where if you are caught with being positive, you end up in some kind of mountain resort in the middle of nowhere, isolated and with the worst food possible, probably eating some pieces of dog or...
what is that?
I'm going to show you the menu for those athletes that have dared to go to China and unfortunately were found positive. Suddenly, some athletes, and this.
What is that? Some pasta right there?
You want to see how it is? I mean, look at it. It has different colors. I mean,
that's some nasty looking pasta right there, yo.
It's so.
Those are some nasty looking. What is that?
I really don't know what is that.
What is that?
I really don't know. I'm wondering.
Ew.
What is it?
And what kind of an animal is that down below? Ew.
Dog?
No.
Yeah, they have festivals about dogs, eating dogs in China.
Yeah.
So if you
I bet they're sorry they went to China now.
It's just incredible that people can even think about going to China and participating to these idiotic games when of course diplomatically they were already boycotted, and then now you have also the evidence that Chinese just pick up athletes that they dislike, or maybe they have a better Chinese athlete that want they want them to win some gold and say, oh, that guy's positive, boom, and they bring him up in the mountains. Somebody says, look like a bat.
It did look like a bat.
It did look like a bat. It did look like a bat.
Ew.
disgusting.
They eat bats. Remember that show you did, and they were eating some bats.
No. It's not. It's definitely not a good meal. It's definitely not a good meal. Okay, go George. Here he goes, Mr. George Soros.
The gap between his beliefs and reality have grown ever wider. China is facing an economic crisis centered on the real estate market, which has been the main engine of growth ever since Xi Jinping came to power in 2013.
Now he's talking about the bubble that supposedly exploded with this Evergrande company in China, and the crisis that apparently it's really creating some economic instability in certain banks in China. I tend to believe, though, that at this point, this is even more of a reason for Xi Jinping to attack Taiwan and get the interest out of the people's desperation and stuff. When they are desperate, then give them a war, and they will, at that point, surround the leader and cheer him and say, yes, that's what happens. Whenever leaders are in crisis, especially in those kind of countries, a war is even closer than ever. It could be said the same also for Russia, that it's definitely having some problems economically. And so these countries basically have nothing to lose, then probably go all the way. And at that point, by invading Ukraine, invading Taiwan, regaining not only regaining, but actually moving the New World Order from an American New World Order to a Sino-Russian New World Order.
Model on which the real estate boom is based is unsustainable. People buying apartments have to start paying for them even before they are built. So the system is based on credit. Local governments derive the bulk of their revenues from selling land at ever-rising prices. Eventually, prices had to rise beyond the level ordinary people could afford. That happened in the middle of 2021. By then,
now,
the boom
Christy,
had grown to an unhealthy size.
Now, we're talking about China. I want to show you something that's going to shock you, Christy. This is a report by a Swedish athlete who was found positive and brought immediately in the middle of the mountains to a ski resort, isolated. And I think that people need to see this because it's definitely interesting. Let's see if we can fit the audio also. This is basically a Swedish guy who is shedding light on what happened.
I hadn't had any fever or anything, so I thought everything was cool.
Yes.
So I didn't think so much about the test result. We went to our hotel in the mountains, and after a few hours at the hotel room, I got a phone call with the COVID manager of the hotel saying that the test at the airport was positive, which surprised me a lot because I felt good. And they told me that I have to stay at my...
One second. Yeah.
That's me. Jag vet inte när, jag vet inte var det här ligger. Men någon gång så kommer jag forsa sport dit.
It talks a little bit English and then talks also in Swedish. But we
Jag
have
har fått veta att
subtitles.
det är isoleringshotell som gäller för mig. Oklart hur länge. Jag har fått en sån här fin dräkt på mig. Då ska jag åka typ en 45 minuter härifrån till ett annat hotell.
You have to dress up like this to go to another hotel. They put him in an isolation on an ambulance and they bring him to another hotel.
It was really terrifying experience, and it just felt like it didn't feel real. It felt like I was in a movie, in a sci-fi movie or something. It was really hard to understand that everything happened to me. I was really far away from home. I'm from Sweden, so I've traveled all the way to China, and I was just by myself, no one to speak to, in an ambulance out of nowhere.
Det är väldigt på riktigt nu.
Scary, yeah?
Som är extremt utlämnad, som är extremt ensam. Alla mina kollegor på plats. Helt tomt hotell, jag vet inte var jag är någonstans. Men det tog kanske en halvtimme åka kanske. Ingen pratar engelska. Helt tyst, helt tomt. Ödehotell. Mitt ute i ingenstans. Det enda jag ser är det polisbil och ambulans utanför hotellet. Inte en enda människa.
It's
Natalie?
lonely, of course. It's really quiet. I don't hear anything. All day it's just quiet. This hotel is, I think, near a ski resort, which
like
is
a horror movie
empty.
plot.
All I can see through my window is
No, this is the Winter Olympics for those who went in China and got positive, courtesy of Xi Jinping. Check this out.
Someone will bring you lunch later.
Oh my god, it's horrible.
It's like another movie. It
It
is.
is.
So,
this is, I would say, the most strange situation, the most strange week I've had in my entire life, for sure.
Jag vet inte vad som händer framöver. Jag har ingen aning. Det enda jag vet är att jag måste testa negativt 2 dagar i rad. Jag ska testas varje dag nu för att få lämna det här stället.
But not knowing when you're getting out of this room is it's something else. It's really, really hard. It's really hard to live with, to be honest. I get way too much food. They're really generous. I can show you my lunch package that just had.
you got some better food than probably the other athlete, which we showed earlier, which was
So
think
this is my
Russian.
lunch today. So I get 3 of these packages each day. It's really, really much. Unfortunately, it's not my favorite food, but at least I have food. So I won't starve until death, which is good.
He's doing a lot better than the other person.
Yeah, the one that gave that miserable
That
bat thing.
I mean, I cannot choose when I want to leave. I cannot choose what to eat. I cannot choose when I get my food, and stuff like that. I just want to make my own choices. I think the first time,
Can you go home?
the first thing I will do.
No, you can
when
do
I come
anything. It's
here
locked up.
is just to
Go home.
get a
No.
menu somewhere at the restaurant and just choose something that I want to have. That's the thing that I miss the most.
Det kan ta 2 dagar, det kan ta en vecka, det kanske tar en månad tills jag är härifrån. Vi får se helt enkelt hur länge jag behöver stanna.
Crazy. Totally insane.
Poor
This
guy.
is the I mean, we're talking here about a dystopian future which is already there in China. Let's go back to the words of Archbishop Vigano.
You understood this instinctively, and your yearning for freedom was shown in all its coordinated harmony, moving towards to the capital, Ottawa. Dear truck drivers,
Now, why am I showing you this and talking about China? Because China and Canada are like this. They are like totally united. And like we said the other time, Justin Trudeau is probably the illegitimate son of Fidel Castro. So everything fits in an international communist socialist nightmare scenario. And I don't really understand why Soros is kind of like, he doesn't really like Xi Jinping, but then he likes everything else. It's like a personal thing for him, or is it just theater?
I think it's theater.
It's theater.
It accounted for nearly 30% of the economy, and it was eating up an ever-increasing amount of credit. After accelerating gradually, the property boom ended with a bang. Residential land prices in June 2021 were more than 30%.
We're talking about the crisis in China, the possible economic crisis in China, and what is behind it. Of course, he has a lot of expertise on this, Christy. This guy has made billions, not millions, billions by basically hijacking the economy of entire countries, bankrupting England, Italy, and whatnot. I mean, everything that he could have done to, of course, become nowadays with his BlackRock and everything else, one of the leaders in worldwide finance.
Higher than they had been the year before. The authorities tried to slow down the pace and ordered banks not to increase lending for residential real estate. The directive had the opposite effect from what was intended. It made it difficult for the largest and most leveraged developer, Evergrande, to meet
Evergrande, like I said earlier, which apparently has been a big problem for the financial assets of China.
Obligations. Subcontractors who didn't get paid stopped working, and people who had bought apartments started to worry that they may never receive the homes they were paying for. When the main selling season started in September, there were many more sellers than buyers. For a while,
I think that it's like almost like Soros is kind of, somebody has pointed out, Soros sneaky putting himself forward as the man to bridge the East and the West by appearing to side with neither while appreciating both. Well, he seems to be critical of Xi Jinping, but also he's talking about the Evergrande bubble, and it all seems like in some way he must have a way of making money out of it all, because for him it's all about making profit, even with the worst crisis possible. Even if the world goes to hell, he would like to make a profit on it. And probably, I mean, it's like seeing the Rothschilds on steroids, because the Rothschilds have been there for a much longer time than George Soros. George Soros, in one lifetime, coming from a very modest setup, he has a reason to be one of the world leaders financially. And this is, of course, then going to be passed on to his son, and then probably to his grandson and great-grandson. So he has established Soros as a family, as an established family. In fact, his son is very much buddies with Obama and works to destabilize the US politically.
Hardly any transactions at the advertised prices. But today, prices for both land and apartments are starting to fall. This will turn many of those who invested the bulk of their savings in real estate against Xi Jinping.
So you see, that's what he's saying here. He's saying there is this crisis. Basically, they will turn against Xi Jinping because once the real estate bubble explodes. Well, let me tell you, dear George, that the problem is that Xi Jinping, before being destabilized, will wage war against Taiwan. And at that point, will destabilize the whole world, unleash a couple of nukes, and basically there will be no problem for him to go back into an even stronger position. So, dear George, what the heck are you talking about?
Evergrande is now in receivership, and many other developers are facing the same fate. The creditors of Evergrande started fighting to improve their position in receiving bankruptcy distributions. The courts took charge, and their first move was to protect the subcontractors who employ some 70 million migrant workers. It remains to be seen how the authorities will handle the crisis. They may have postponed dealing with it for too long because people's confidence has now been shaken. Xi Jinping has many tools available.
Ladies and gentlemen, while we are listening to George Soros, let me remind you that you are the sponsors of this broadcast, and you can, in a way, finance us. We are no George Soros. We don't have billions. We don't have even millions. I know. What can you do?
Whatever.
But whatever. If you want to help us out, Fundly or Cash App. People seem to like Fundly more than Cash App, really. But Cash App is available in the US and Great Britain. For the rest of the world, Fundly. I'm not really giving out GoFundMe anymore. I found.
Oh yeah. We gotta give up on GoFundMe because they're crooks.
I don't know. I mean, guys, if you want to still use it, but what they have done with the Canadians is outrageous. Let's see what Soros continues to say about his vision of China's future.
To re-establish confidence. The question is whether he will use them properly. In my opinion, the second quarter of 2022 will show whether he has succeeded. The current situation doesn't look promising for Xi. Closely related to real estate, China also has a serious demographic problem. The birth rate is much lower than the published figures indicate. Experts calculate that the actual population is about 130 million lower than the official figure of 1.4 billion. This is not widely known, but it will aggravate the real estate crisis, produce labor shortages, fiscal strain, and a slowdown in the economy. Xi Jinping has also encountered serious problems with vaccines. The Chinese vaccines were designed to deal with the Wuhan variant, but the world is now struggling with other variants, first Delta and now Omicron. Xi Jinping couldn't possibly admit this while he is waiting to be appointed for a third term. He is hiding it from the Chinese people as a guilty secret. All Xi Jinping can do now is to impose a zero COVID policy. This involves severe lockdowns at the slightest sign of an outbreak, but this is having negative effect on economic activity. And
how can you say that after he forced the whole of the West to embrace these policies that are draconian and basically... Rambo, what's up with you? What's up? What do you think of George Soros? Rambo, what do you think of George Soros? It's evil, huh? Evil.
Also inflicting severe hardship on the people who instantaneously quarantined wherever they are, and their complaints can't be silenced. Omicron threatens to be Xi Jinping's undoing. It is much more infectious than any previous variant, although it's much less harmful to those who have been properly vaccinated. But Chinese people have only been vaccinated against the Wuhan variant, and Xi Jinping's guilty secret is bound to be revealed either during the Winter Olympics or soon thereafter. Omicron entered China mainly through the port city of Tianjin, which is 30 minutes by high-speed rail to Beijing. By now, it has spread to an increasing number of cities across China and is no longer under control. Since the Winter Olympics is Xi Jinping's prestige project, the administration is going to incredible lengths to make it a success. The competitors are hermetically sealed off from the local population, but it does make sense to continue this effort after the event.
So basically, he criticizes the Chinese vaccine, saying that it's ineffective against the Omicron variant, when we know exactly that even the other vaccines are ineffective. I mean, it's like, whatever. I mean, of course, he has a lot of money invested in the big pharma, Mr. George Soros.
Citywide lockdowns are unlikely to work against a variant as infectious as Omicron. This is evident in Hong Kong, where the Omicron outbreak looks increasingly serious. Yet, the cost of zero COVID is rising every day, and the city is isolated from the rest of the world and even from China. Hong Kong highlights the wider challenge.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Fourth Reich member George Soros, when he was young, he helped the Third Reich and he sent his fellow Jews to the concentration camp. Yeah. So that's it. Him and Klaus have a lot in common. Yeah. Very much love for the Third and even for the Fourth Reich, which they're helping to implement.
He doesn't like when you talk like that. He likes your Italian accent.
I know this accent is very good for German shepherds.
Omicron represents for Xi Jinping. Xi tried to impose total control, but he failed. Given the strong opposition within the CCP, Xi Jinping's carefully choreographed elevation to the level of Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping may never occur. It is to be hoped that Xi Jinping may be replaced by someone less repressive at home and more peaceful abroad. This would remove the greatest threat that open societies face today, and they should do everything within their power to encourage China to move in the desired direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Georgie.
That was the longest 20 minutes of my life.
Really? I know he's old. He's very old. Very, very old. I mean, when him or Klaus Schwab talk, there is this feeling of a Fourth Reich that pervades the atmosphere. Now, where will you find out more about the Fourth Reich? In which book, Christy?
Volume 7.
Volume 7 of my Confessions. This is the book that is basically already out on Kindle. You can find it on Amazon on Kindle, but will be out soon, within the next 24 hours, also on paperback and hardcover for the first time, Christy. I'm so excited about finally an English book hardcover. I mean, I had my first hardcovers in Japan, out of all places, already 10 years ago. And now finally we can get a hardcover also that is worthy of this great book. It will also be available cheaper on paperback because people want books on the go and they like to have paperbacks. This is the cover, you see? This is the cover of volume 7. And of course, it's very detailed in the symbology. You can study it while you get it. And you can now, we have myself watching the COVID. Hilarious. Not bad, eh? There's a lot more symbology that we will not disclose that you will have to identify.
He's staring at you.
Yeah. Rambo, what do you think about it? Huh? I know. It's a new book. I know. It's a serious book. I think that Rambo is quite interested. I never saw him so interested in this. Rambo, what's up with this book? What is it that worries you? People will finally understand the truth. Yeah.
Where did you wear that coat?
No, it's from the Chinese dry cleaner. Okay, guys, we have opened the phone lines. The phone lines are open. You can call us +1 970 577 6369. We give you 10 minutes to call us. Otherwise, we will. What are we gonna do? He has to go. Where he has to go? To do his things. Rambo. Okay, guys, the phone lines are open. In the meantime, from George Soros, we go directly to Canada, where in the last few hours, Justin Trudeau, a communist dictator, coming out right from Klaus Schwab, no, is being shaped by the global shapers of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, thanks to his father's legacy, of course. The Freedom Trackers convoy are very worried about the situation. They sent a very powerful message yesterday because they are worried. Today, the situation is very tense, I must say. So I would like to update you with what's going on Ambassador Bridge, which is basically this bridge which connects Detroit with Windsor in Canada, so basically connects the US with Canada, and at the moment is blocked. This is the latest. This is a crucial war, guys, on the freedom of many people.
Answer it.
Oh, guys, we have a phone call here.
Did you hear it?
Yes, yeah, of course. Hello there. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Who am I talking with?
Hello, Leo and Christy. This is John from Fremont Region number 5.
Hi.
Hello. And which city of FEMA Region number 5?
Chicagoland area.
Okay, in Illinois, in Chicago, we have somebody who fortunately is a patriot and not somebody who gives in to the Obama cult, because, you know, you have even a shrine to Obama in Chicago. So, I mean, you're pretty compromised over there. So any questions for us today? And did you enjoy the show?
Yeah, Leo, you know, I'm on the same page with Christy. That was the longest 20 minutes of my life. It was, listening was like listening to a 100-year-old Nazi, which, you know, I think is pretty accurate.
But we need to listen to the enemy to understand the enemy and his next moves. Don't you think so?
Well, that's why I'm here, Leo. You know, I see you on the InfoWars show, just like Owen. You know, I love. Well, I don't know if it's proper to say, but I love your accent. That's what really got me to listen to your show, and you know, it's interesting. I haven't read any of your books. I'm not super great with reading, but I consume audiobooks like crazy. And right now, I'd like to recommend Alien World Order. I just finished it. It's very good, and it definitely shares some of that Nazi stuff that, basically
I would say that Invisible Master is a book that treats very much that subject also in a very interesting way. You should get that. And on top of that,
We don't have any audio books.
we don't have any audiobooks, unfortunately. I mean, I'm not that great reading in English. At least that's what Christy says. She could read
I
them.
didn't say that.
But you told me that. But will you read them, Christy? I don't think so. We need a serious, dark voice.
I would do it. I'm sure I could.
Yes. But by the way, it's great to have you here on the show. Any particular questions for us tonight?
Well, since I've listened to these books, I haven't really made up my mind about it. I tried not to have a lot of cognitive dissonance about the stuff. Just keep my mind open and be a real free thinker. You know how people out there, they say, "Oh, I'm a free thinker," but they worship science. I like to think of myself as like a real free thinker. It's hard to make my mind up about anything, but basically, what do you think about humanity's contact with any extraterrestrials?
This is a very good question.
Knowledge about that.
This is a very good question, especially because amongst the many subjects of my new book, Volume 7, I finally give this topic a totally unprecedented vision, interpretation. Okay, it's about the interpretation that connects us as the rise of cyber Satan is happening right now and is going to be completed in 2030. Where does it really come from, this technology? Was there a way in which the aliens kind of led us into this technology? We know that most scientists today think that if a technology is more advanced than us, then it will be already led by artificial intelligence. And so what will this artificial intelligence do to conquer us? Send us spaceships, or instead maybe led us to believe that the answer is to embrace their technology? Maybe technology that was found and then retrieved after those famous episodes, like, for example, Roswell. Me and my wife went to Roswell together. We actually gonna have on our show in the coming days also the director of one of the responsible for this Roswell Museum, who is Donald Schmidt, also a very known author, and we will be discussing this subject very much in detail. So thank you very much for calling today, and please check out the new book, because this subject is addressed, but it's addressed in a way that is different and probably even more scary. What do you think?
Well, thanks for having me, Leo. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Enjoy the evening. Keep on following us and call us again. And we will, of course, open the phone line also for another caller if interested. In the meantime, like I was saying, we go to Canada. Canada, which is fighting this war, this freedom convoy, accused of being almost a terrorist group, insurrectionist, kind of like we are going back to all those words that were used for the people who, of course, were dragged into the Capitol Hill trap. Another subject also of my book, the Capitol Hill trap. No, Christy, the way QAnon and the Capitol Hill trap have also been kind of served us on a plate, so we could fall into this trap and there is a lot to say about this subject, especially about the QAnon, also in volume 7. So as you can see, we are really revealing you that there is a lot of interesting material. But let's go to Ambassador Bridge, where some things today are happening. Ambassador Bridge that connects the US with Canada.
Hello, Canada and the world. This is an update from the Ambassador Bridge. Today is February 8th. The police are preparing a forceful action because the Ambassador Bridge is very important economically to Canada and the USA, and so they want it flowing. And we need everyone available to go there and reinforce it. We need to hold the line. More people, the better. Now is the time, everybody. Also, people in the USA, please go and support us, the Canadians, on your side, the Michigan-Detroit border side. Head there, because if they try to take out us in Canada, they might realize, well, there's no point because it's already becoming blocked on the USA side. So again, this is the Ambassador Bridge. It connects Detroit, Michigan to Windsor, Ontario. So the Canadians have that side, but we might be attacked or forced out with force by the police. I am Marcel Ernie Racing News reporting.
So while we are witnessing what is happening in Canada, we get another phone call. Who we have online on the phone with us today, calling us?
Skeletor.
Okay. What's
your name?
Skeletor.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Particular name, particular name.
Hi.
So what's your, of course, question for us, and do you enjoy our show?
I post your show on my page every time. You guys do great work.
Oh, thank you.
Leo, you're like, you should be on the Joe Rogan show. That's one thing I want to say.
I tried to write to him.
You would blow up. I mean, people would, and I say that because your books need to be bought by everybody. You have so much in-depth knowledge, and I really admire what you've gone through, you and your wife, for standing up for what you believe and for revealing things that are of consequence and substance.
Oh, thank you.
So you do really good work. So I always post your videos because you always have something informative to say.
Well, thank you so much. You are really somebody who is supporting us actively, sharing our videos. So we really appreciate that, because with all this censorship, we have lost a lot of audience, and a lot of people don't really bother to then catch up to the next YouTube channel where they can find us. So we always stress the fact that people should subscribe to all the emergency channels, which I list in every video, because we are living on borrowed time every time. We have 14 YouTube channels removed since October 2020.
Yeah, people don't realize you're one of the most censored individuals out there, and I would consider you a source of news. That's how critical what you bring to the table. I do have a question, though.
Thank you very much. I want to say hello to our friends who are, of course, here following us also on the chat. Hello to Alessandro Pantaloni, who followed my advice and went to Mexico. We have Strawman, we have Anna Bishop, we have many other friends. So please go with your question. We are very glad to have you on board.
All right. Do you think they're going to transition to the focus on climate change as a mechanism for control? Because
it's actually this is a very appropriate question, I guess, Chris.
Yeah,
because
I think because their messaging and narrative is broken down with COVID-19.
No, but I mean, you will find the actual answers to this question, because this is not a question I can give you an answer in 1 minute. This is a question that needs at least 100 pages of a book.
Right.
Okay, so in volume 7 of my confessions, I have made basically a very detailed depiction of why they are pushing this whole green agenda, let's call it a green agenda, let's call it a great reset, because it's all part of the great reset, the green agenda, the Green New Deal, or whatever you want to call it. And for this reason, I think that you will find the answers there. It's about, of course, giving you an answer in a few seconds is very difficult, but basically it's all part of taking everything from everybody, and then the state becoming more and more owner of yourself, because this is the communistic plan that was advanced since the times of Adam Weishaupt, that was then developed by a guy called Philippe Boirotti, that was later developed even further by Karl Marx, who wrote the Communist Manifesto. But Adam Weishaupt plan is the plan of Klaus Schwab, own nothing and be happy. So it's about making you bankrupt completely, making you more and more desperate, but also telling you that we have to transition to this new ecologic format, because this is the answer. Now, yesterday, not a million years ago, but yesterday, the European Union Commission, the main figure in the European Union, was meeting with Blinken, while of course we saw the Macron meeting with Putin. Everybody focused on that. But if you actually go and find on YouTube the Blinken, this guy from the European Commission talking to Blinken about the crisis, he was not talking about the millions of possibly displaced people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of deaths that might happen or occur with the war. No, he wasn't worried at all about that. He was talking about the importance of transitioning to new forms of energy, because they overly depend too much on Russia. I mean, this is idiotic. We are facing the biggest threat since the Second World War, and this guy was talking about new green possibilities and the fact that we need to construct now nuclear plants again and work with clean energy. Now, let's remember that in a scenario in which you have a nuclear warfare, you need to have also a civil use of nuclear power, an increase in the civil use of nuclear power, because people tend to forget that all the nuclear stuff that actually is found on top of the missile, the warheads, is coming from nuclear power plants. And the moment in which we leave rusty for 50 years those missiles, they are no longer capable of having the same efficiency. So you need to recharge them, you need to rebuild them, and so you need to restart the process of building nuclear plants. That's why they're pushing, with the excuse of the ecologic transition, the fact that they are not able to do it without the nuclear power, and that is one of their excuses. But there is much more to it. So it's all about giving the false impression that we are in front of a choice that is made for our own good, when in reality the choice is to make you more and more dependent from the artificial intelligence and from the system that they're constructing. Imagine, for example, a car. A car nowadays is going on gasoline. I can turn on my car, go wherever I want, and nobody's going to tell me anything. No, it's my own car. I drive. I go wherever I want. In 10 years from now, that's not going to be possible anymore if you follow this model of society, because the car will be electric. It will be controlled by artificial intelligence, telling you where to go and where you can't go. You will be basically not able to make your own choices anymore. So
you have reduced mobility.
Yeah, but you will be controlled. Your mobility will be controlled by the artificial intelligence. So this is why all these incentives to go green. No, we're not going green here. We are actually going towards cyber Satan and embracing cyber Satan that wants to completely control us by 2030. The European Union just approved a new law Do you know that from the 2024-25, all the new cars that will be sold in the EU will have to have obligatory the breathalyzer. So you will be checked every time you go inside the car. You will have to breathe before you turn on the car. And if you, so this is the level of control of a technocratic nightmare that we are embracing. Thank you so much for calling us today. We are, of course,
answering my question.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
No, well, I mean, I think you will find a lot more about the answer to your question in my new book, because
No, I tend to agree with you. I have my own position on it. I think we're moving toward a transformative transactional environment where people are controlled physically, mentally, and spiritually.
What I unveil in volume 7 is not something you can agree with, because it's simply facts. So I wanted to make a book that was not made on theories or hypotheses, but simply and crude facts. The fact that Bill Gates is building right now a new nuclear plant.
Right, nuclear power plant in Wyoming.
Yeah, it's in my book, and I explain why. So all this is part of facts, not fiction or not hypothesis. So it's very important for the people to understand. I wanted to make a book that will not be in any way impeachable, like my friend Harrison said on InfoWars, because it's based on facts and also on academic studies, on archives that come also from the lodges involved in the occult roots of the Great Reset, the lodges of Freemason in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, the Illuminati. All these things are not really accessible to everybody. So I wanted to just make it accessible so people can see. This is the background. This is where all this transformation is coming from. And we are heading towards an artificial intelligence that is not going to be simply controlling you, but you will be worshiping the artificial intelligence as a god. And that is also very sick and twisted turn of events that we will have. Thank you so much for calling, and please call again. This is, of course, the Leo Zagami show with Leo and Christy. We have reached, of course, the end of today's show. Christy, what's your last thought about today's show?
Have a nice night, everyone.
Yes, have a nice night. But what do you think? I mean, here, for example, let's listen for a second. This joke of a man, Justin Trudeau. I mean, this privileged, elitarian
I like those
product.
checkers. I think they're cool.
This privileged son of the Great
Reminds me of
Reset.
Gavin Newsom's like, best friend.
Yeah.
Individuals are trying to blockade our economy, our democracy, and our fellow citizens' daily lives. It has to stop.
Will it stop, though? Will it stop? I think that the Canadian truck drivers are onto something, and even if the police intervenes, they're probably gonna react. It's exciting. Definitely, it's quite
more
incredible.
Exciting than that Soros.
It's very much. It's very interesting how America has not really reacted since the beginning of this pandemic, aside from that demented Capitol Hill trap. When instead Canada is actually following.
Well, we didn't get any. I mean, they squashed that mandate thing. Otherwise, America would be pretty pissed off.
I think that though in some blue states like California, we had to endure a lot of things. In fact, there was talk about the possibility of starting a similar kind of event here, and I think that this might become contagious. I mean, truck drivers are much more powerful than you can imagine, especially because they represent really the key element in this chain, this production chain, this consumerist chain that of course, it is essential for today's world. Otherwise, where are you going to get the food? You're going to have. That's why the Great Reject teaches you also to have your own land and basically become independent from all this, because it's pretty bad what's happening. Pretty bad what's happening. Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Me and my wife Christy are ever so happy that we had a lot of people, over 100 people live. Then we have thousands of people following us, of course, in the days ahead, and we are glad also about that. Please subscribe also to the emergency channels, otherwise you will risk the disappearance of your favorite show. And we will see you again when, Christy? On Thursday?
Thursday.
And on Saturday.
Oh.
And all this thanks to your donations, through Fundly, through Cash App. Some people also use GoFundMe, but we don't use it. So, Fundly, donate. And if you don't want to donate, purchase our books. And even Christie's books. Yeah.
Listen.
Okay, we have also this and our bestseller, Volume 6.0. But a new bestseller is about to. It's already out. Join the Great Reject. Purchase a copy on Kindle now, and in the next couple of days also on paperback and hardcover. It's the book that will make you rethink your own existence for real. So purchase it. No? Take care, guys.
Bye,
All the
everyone.
best.
Bye. Have a nice night. Sweet dreams. Sogni d'oro. Buonanotte. Ciao a tutti.
The Great Reject from Palm Springs, California. The Leo Zagami Show.
Until next time.
Until next time.